I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And this is going to be the Veteran Edition. This edition was inspired by SharkTick5856. The username's a little longer than that, but it's a mouthful. He's a fellow veteran, and he requested this video, and I hope it's going to be a good one, enjoyable for y'all. What I'm going to talk about today, and this one's going to be more of an interactive video, because I'm going to ask my fellow veterans to comment down with their answer to this question. If it's not too personal, if you have the time or whatever, but if you would please comment down with your answer. And the question is, why did you join the military? And I'm going to answer it here. Mine is personal, but I can't very well ask y'all to comment down here if I don't tell my own story. So here's my story. I was 19 in 1990, and Desert Shield was in full effect. Back then it was Desert Shield. For those of y'all who don't know, we had sent military over to Kuwait to help defend Kuwait against the Iraqis, and we were in a defensive position, and we were just kind of out there waiting and helping keep the Iraqis out of Kuwait. Nothing was really happening at the time though, but it was called Desert Shield. And I joined right during this, at the beginning of this Desert Shield. I started, went to the recruitment office and stuff. So at the time, in my mind, I was joining to go over and be involved in this Desert Shield, this protection of Kuwait. And the media, how the media was sensationalizing everything. Of course, the Iraqis were basically Satan incarnate, and we had to go over there and protect these defenseless Kuwaitis and, defend democracy and all that. So that's really what got me started. And I went to the recruitment office. I actually went to basic training. I joined the Army, to clarify. I joined the Army, and I went to basic training in, I think, January or February of 91. While I was in basic training, the next phase of the operation started, which was Operation Desert Storm. And in that operation, which I don't know why they don't do this every single time with every offensive, but basically the Air Force went in and bombed the living shit out of it, and out of Iraq, Baghdad, for, I don't know, a few days, constant barrage of bombs until it was done. And it was over in just a matter of days, the whole thing, before I even got out of basic training. So I never got to get deployed over there into combat duty. I just spent my 4 years in various duty stations in garrison, constantly training for misery. And in some ways, that's, I'm not going to say that's worse than combat, but it's bad. In some ways it is, because it's a mind game. I mean, you join to go to fight, but you're stuck sitting and doing basically useless crap, whatever your higher ups can devise for you. And it is really aggravating. They need to make a new word for it, because it's an unsettling disturbance inside you that you constantly feel, because you're brainwashed, and purposefully, you're being brainwashed into thinking you're a killer. You have to, because you're supposed to go kill people. That's the obvious job of a soldier. So you're this killer, and you're just sitting here, polishing your boots and stuff in a barracks. It's difficult being stuck in that situation for years, but I did. And in some ways, I've always regretted the fact that I never got sent over. I didn't get to test myself. And in some ways, I'm happy that I didn't, because I've seen guys come back from the desert, and it's not, what I expected it to be as a 19-year-old kid. So I don't know. but I never got to be deployed into combat, and none of the guys I served with did. They joined at the same time I did. You know, my recruitment class or whatever you call that, none of us got deployed. We all did our 4 years or whatever, or 6 years, and got out, except those who made a career out of it, of course. But there's still, you know, even those non-combat veterans like myself, there's still a pride in having served. I mean, we all signed on the dotted line to put our bodies in defense of this country. So, but I always feel a little bit of regret, you know. I'm not a combat veteran, so that's always been a small shadow in the back of my mind. It just seems like less. It is what it is. I wasn't the one calling the shots. And a lot of that, though, I did that. That was at the front of my mind. I wanted to serve and all that, but then as I grew older, after I got out of the Army, and as I grew older and had the maturity for self-reflection, as I look back as a 19-year-old kid, and if you watch my videos about how I grew up, you'll sort of get an understanding for what I'm about to say. But as a 19-year-old kid, I didn't have any job skills except for horse training, but there's not a big job market for that career path. So I never considered that much of an option. So I sort of chose that as an out too, as an out of the situation I was in, which was just a dead end to nothing. I don't know what I was gonna do. I don't know what I was gonna do for a career or whatever. So I joined the Army. Now, like I said, at the time when I was 19, these weren't my thoughts. I was joining for Desert Shield. But as I grew older and started realizing these things, as I look back, I realized I had more than one reason for joining the military. The national pride and defense. I want to say defense of my country, but that doesn't fit because nobody's attacking our country anymore. We're defending other countries. So, but that's the words that come to mind, defense of my country. That's why I joined, but that's not what we actually do anymore. Also, I realized that, especially after seeing Forrest Gump and Lieutenant Dan, I really expected to, I don't want to say I would have been as honorable as Lieutenant Dan, but I expected a similar situation there, like what he expected when Forrest was trying to drag him out. I expected not to come back from the desert. And that was like a deeper, darker underlying reason, because as I grew older, I remember after I got out and everything, and just being surprised that I was going to be 30 years old. I remember that day. And it wasn't like I thought about it and thought, you know, I'll never live to see 30, or, you know, I'll never make it to whatever. It never crossed my mind to even think that I wouldn't. It floored me when I realized that I was going to pass that 30-year-old mark. I'd never thought of it before. It never crossed my mind. So that was an eye-opening moment there in my life when I realized that I was going to be 30. So then, when that hit me, I realized that I've got 40, 50 more years that I've got to try to figure out what I'm going to do. So there's that. But those were the three main reasons. Number one was patriotism. I wanted to make my family proud. I wanted to make my country proud. I wanted to serve my country, because that's, as crazy as my parents were, they instilled that in me. It wasn't expected of me, but it was, there was a certain amount of family pride that when I decided to join and serve. So there was that as well. So I was instilled with patriotism and you know, American pride and military pride at a young age. Mine is a complex kind of mixture of reasons. A lot of it had to do with just my mental state at the time, my emotional state. I was confused, and it's hard to describe that level of confusion and fear of the future, but at the same time patriotism and national pride. Mine's a very, very convoluted explanation for why I joined. It's even more convoluted than I've been able to express here today, but these are the basic things, the basic reasons why I did. And I actually didn't start feeling really proud that I had served until years after I had gotten out. Because like I said, I didn't get to go to combat. And that was the main reason I had joined, was, because that tied into everything, every reason, the patriotism, the pride, and like I said, the darker aspect of not expecting to come back. That seemed like a good way to go and make people proud. You know what I mean? My family could be proud of me, but not having served in combat kind of, I don't know, put a shadow over my time in service inside me, in my mind, and I wasn't really proud of it for many years. I wasn't ashamed of it. If somebody asked me, I'd tell them I served in the Army, and I wasn't ashamed. It wasn't like that. But inside myself, I just wasn't proud of what I had done. And especially after watching so many guys go over after 9/11. So that didn't help me as far as, how I felt about myself and my time in service. But eventually I came around, and now I can genuinely say, just to myself inside, not to other people, because I think that that's more importantly, I genuinely feel inside myself, I feel proud of my service. And I hope that every veteran does. And I'll leave you there. If you'd like to support the channel by buying me a cup of coffee, I'll put that link down in the description. And if you're interested in Gen X gear or merch or any of that, swag, whatever you want to call it, I've got some cool stuff, and I'll put that link down in the description too. We're adding to that pretty regularly. And if you can't or don't want to support the channel in either of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. And I appreciate that. Thank you. And if you have any ideas like this one, please share them down in the comments. It's really fun doing these videos that are requested by our subscribers. And again, any veterans that feel so, you're invited to comment down below with your experience. Why did you join? British, Australian, wherever, American, wherever you're from, we all served. So all of you are invited to comment below with your story. Thanks in advance. I sincerely appreciate it. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.